Now, for everybody here who's here at the event will know that you guys are like massive presence here because you guys have been doing all the parking.
We have. It's been fun. You see all the blue jackets running around. It's like a little mini city of San Francisco out here.
Yeah, it's awesome. You get here and it sort of feels like this is startup land. You've got Luxe kind of doing their thing. So have they had any fights with anybody yet? Or anything?
No, we're peaceful people.
We're kind. We come here to do good things.
We just want to help with parking.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us how Luxe is going.
Luxe is going great. We are nearing our 1-year anniversary since we first publicly launched back in October of last year. We've been growing at a very, very fast clip. 40% month-over-month growth on transactions, north of that on revenue. We're now open in 8 cities. We started in San Francisco. We've reached 8 cities now in total, and everything is going great.
And the big problem you're solving is like basically parking your car and finding somewhere to park it and not wasting all your time doing that and just trying to get from A to B without all of that hassle.
Right.
But then you guys are adding a bunch of services onto it too. So how's that going?
It's going well. So I think the thing about us is like we focused on, there's only 2 things you do every single time that you get in your car. You park it and you drive it. So we focused on one of the biggest pain points, but also one of the highest engagement points. And that allows us to now add all these additional services using one click of a button.
Right, so you're doing like oil changes and car washes.
That's right.
And are people actually using it then?
Oh yeah, very, very much.
Yeah, I mean in some ways I almost imagine that having those means that they're more likely to even use the valet service, right?
It's kind of this virtuous cycle, right? So if you do some of those things, and sometimes we get people that say like, well, I have parking at my office, but I really don't have time to get gas, so I'm just going to park with you guys today.
Yeah, I mean, given how hot the transportation area is right now with Uber and Lyft and everything, are you partnering at all like to work with them in any way or like involve any like additional sort of like first last mile kind of things?
Nothing to announce right now, but I think like we certainly look at them as, and us included, as part of the overall transportation ecosystem, right? You have like public transportation, you have Uber, Lyft, and then you have us, right? Our sweet spot really is around kind of intercity travel. So going from one city to the next, it seems to be our sweet spot.
Right. So you're from LA.
Right.
Which is, of course, a heaven for people who love driving because you have to drive everywhere.
Right, it's heaven or hell.
It's hell.
Yeah,
I mean, when I say heaven, I mean hell.
Right.
So, but give me a little bit of an idea of how you came up with the idea for Luxe, and did it come from your background growing up in such a car-centric city, or?
Sort of, I mean, I grew up in LA, so I always had a car, and I got a car when I was 16, and that was the thing I looked most forward to.
Did you have any accidents?
I had a couple.
Were you at fault?
One of them, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. But like the idea for Luxe actually happened in San Francisco. I was working at Google at the time. I'd come back late from work, and I lived in Pack Heights, and I couldn't find parking late at night, and I just was circling around for like 30 minutes. And it was just like, why doesn't this exist? And the real impetus was, the final straw, if you will, was like when I wanted to go to dinner with my wife, and there was no parking, and we literally searched for like 30, 40 minutes. We were almost late for our reservation. And at the restaurant, I just started sketching out what became Luxe.
Really?
Yeah.
On the back of a napkin?
On the back of a napkin, yeah.
Were you still at Google then when you decided to do Luxe?
No, I was at Zynga, I think, at the time.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing being at Google. What do you think of their self-driving cars? Because that's going to have an impact on all of this too.
Yeah, I mean, self-driving cars are great, right? I think like Uber and self-driving cars in general, including us, have all really spoken to the fact that the car is still the best way to get from point A to point B. And so with more like autonomous cars that are ideally safer, right, you'll have more of those kind of safer people out on the streets, which will make public transportation and just transportation in general a lot better and a lot safer.
Do you think that in that way, just to be like a devil's advocate, I think you're doing some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but do you think that like once those other problems are solved, it will make what you're doing obsolete, or?
No, not necessarily, because I think about self-autonomous cars being actually safer, and when they're safer, the obstacles to car ownership actually go down. So you actually do want to own a car, and when you do own a car, we become that infrastructure on how to store that car, how to access that car, how to dispatch that car.
Right, okay. So you guys are basically doing some big metropolitan places, cities in America. What's the next step for Lux?
Well, I think we're just scratching the surface with the cities we're in, and so I think we have a lot to go deeper in each of these cities, but I think next year we'll be dabbling a little bit potentially into international countries as well. The international market looks to be just as fruitful, if not even more, than the domestic market.
So where are you going to go first?
Where do you live right now?
I live in London.
There you go, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that would be awesome. And
Right.
then, I mean, do you sort of, are you eyeing up things like, I think you're absolutely right about that. I mean, if you think about what companies like Uber are doing in China and India, I mean, they are really going hard in those places because they've got really huge car problems there.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, even the US, like car ownership's up 4% year over year. It's the highest it's been in 10 years. It's been growing consecutively for 5 consecutive years. And Asia, especially China and India, has seen almost double digits year over year growth in car ownership. So the fact of the matter is people are moving to cities. There's less parking that's available because parking is sitting on top of valuable land that developers in cities don't want to be used as parking lots.
Yeah. Who do you see as your biggest competition right now?
I don't know. I mean, it's probably just parking on your own,
Right.
honestly, is our biggest competitor.
Yeah, well, there you
Yeah.
have it. Thanks very much
Thank
for
you.
your time. And I think that we're coming to a close now. Thanks very much for joining us today.